some people literally get diabetes overnight, and other people, it seems like it's a buildup over time. And then once you have the condition, it's kind of a roller coaster, right? So at times you feel okay, at times you don't feel okay, and you just feel like you're on this continuous roller coaster that's going downward, that you're never going to get out of having this particular condition. Well, I've been a doctor now for over almost 30 years, which is hard for me to even say because it's been a while. We have made so many discoveries about the human body and what it's capable of. And what we focus on is self-healing, your body's ability to heal itself. So we're about to have a conversation I think you're going to be very interested in. It's going to open your brain to possibilities with the body with respect to diabetes that you never heard of. So I hope you enjoy.
Hello, today I'm here with Dr. Chris Cormier and we're going to be talking about diabetes. Hello, Dr. Cormier.
Hi, Cameron.
Before we go any further, what is the real difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes?
So type 1 is insulin dependent and type 2 is insulin independent. And what that means is insulin is a hormone that should be produced in your pancreas, and that hormone gets sugar into cells. And so when it's when your pancreas stops producing that particular hormone, the insulin, you can't get sugar into your cells. And so they have to give you an insulin to replace it, like an artificial type insulin for your body. The type 2, that would be type 1. Type 2 is where the insulin is defective. So that the pancreas is still producing the insulin, but it's defective and it just has a tough time getting that sugar into cells.
Do type 1 and type 2 affect the body in the same way, or are they very different problems that they would cause?
So type 1 oftentimes is autoimmune, and really, in my opinion, both types can be. And autoimmune, remember, the way we think about autoimmune is vastly different than everybody else. I feel like there are cells in the pancreas that get so weak and deficient that the body tries to start killing them off. That's how I interpret autoimmune. Whereas other people, most people, conventional people out there say that the body, the immune system is attacking healthy cells. But in my opinion, those cells get unhealthy. Why do they get unhealthy? For lots of reasons. And it could be physical stresses that you could go through, environmental stresses or emotional stresses, which are a lot to think about.
Do men and women experience diabetes differently?
So they're obviously men and women are so different, and men have typical lifestyle things that may differ from women. So I would say, as a whole, the condition kind of is pretty evenly based. When you can't get sugar into your cells and you have high blood sugar, you get a ton of potential side effects that cause more and more conditions unless it's properly dealt with.
What about children? How does diabetes show up differently in kids compared to adults?
And you can imagine the sooner in your lifespan that your body can't get sugar into cells, the more side effects. So in other words, the longer this condition is in your body, then the more side effects it causes. And so certainly as a child, if you get this condition that early, you're expecting a lifelong or a life of misery if you just follow.
Do men and women experience diabetes differently? If so, how?
Yes, I would say they're pretty similar in the effects, because when you can't get sugar into cells, you can't get sugar into cells properly. So the longer that a man or a woman would have this condition, then the worse the potential side effects that can be there.
What about children? How does diabetes show up differently in kids compared to adults?
So the sooner a child, or in your lifespan, you want to think of this, the sooner you develop this condition, then the more history, the longer your life is going to be filled with all kinds of other things. You want to think of it as it leads to neuropathy, right? Unmanaged or not properly managed diabetes is going to lead to neuropathy. It's going to lead to kidney failure. Your pancreas is going to fail even more than it already is. And it just, there's so many other potential things that come up. So you can imagine the sooner a child has this condition, there's a lifelong, or their life's filled with side effects.
Is diabetes mainly an older person condition, or are you seeing it in much younger ages now?
Every age nowadays. It's unbelievable, the incidence It keeps growing and growing every minute of every day, especially here in Louisiana. But I think in terms of our country, there's a lot of reasons as to why this has happened. And I mean, I have my own beliefs when it comes to it, but I'll just go through a short thing. And food companies, chemical companies, drug companies, and insurance companies, they all are tied together. They lobby politicians, and they've done it for many years. So they want you to buy the cheapest foods that have the most chemicals to make you the most sick. So you take the most drugs, so you use the most health insurance. And foods are just, it's kind of where it starts, right? So the foods in our country, if you go to another country, let's say you go to Europe, their foods are farm to table, unbelievable God-made foods. Whereas in our country, it's all boxes and high sugars and just not healthy foods. And that whole thing has led into this massive epidemic of diabetes.
What patterns do you notice around age, stress, and lifestyle when diabetes first appears?
There's some underlying factors, obviously, cause this particular condition. We talked about emotional stress, physical stress, environmental stress, so many different varying degrees on a daily basis in our lives. And so those factors lead to a weakened pancreas in some shape or fashion. And we can get into it maybe with more questions. We don't have to go too long on this one. But basically, the weaker a pancreas gets, then it can't produce, either it stops producing insulin or it produces defective insulin.
Yes. Why does misunderstanding these differences makes diabetes harder to manage long term?
Yeah, so when it comes to the root cause, that's what I think about. Why you can say, oh yeah, it's just a deficiency in insulin, right? Or defective insulin. Well, why did that start to happen? So from my perspective, where the Nerve Health Institute, we work on nerves. And so your brain is your power company, and your brain is wired to every single cell in your body. You want to think of it that way, and including all your organs and glands and skin and bones and fascia and tissues. Every cell is wired to your brain. So it's a hard thought to think about, right? We're this massive network of wires. So your pancreas is nothing, it's wired to your brain as well. And so in particular, the L3 nerve, which you have in your lower back, you have a lumbar spine, and then there's 5 lumbar nerves. Well, the L3 nerve is kind of in the middle, and that L3 nerve is one of the primary nerves that goes to the pancreas. And we see that particular nerve, we have a way of testing all those nerves, like being an electrical engineer or an electrician for the body or a mechanic for the body. So we have a method of testing that particular nerve. It's one of the weakest nerves we see here in Louisiana in people. And that particular nerve doesn't just go to the pancreas, it also goes to the kidneys, the adrenal glands, the spleen, and the descending colon. It also goes to this muscle that pulls your leg across, and it helps to stabilize your knee. So that particular nerve, once you get any type of stress, emotional stress, environmental stress, physical stress, at any given time, it shuts the power down to that particular nerve. Well, then it decreases the power supply from the brain to the pancreas, and it can cause that type of damage to happen.
Why does blood sugar levels swing even when someone is doing everything that's right?
Yeah, so the sugar in the body, right, it should be regulated directly by the pancreas. And when this insulin is defective, there are times where your liver is producing sugar in the body. As let's say you're fasting, where your liver can produce sugar, and if you don't have the proper insulin to get that sugar in the cells, it can do that. So even without eating sugar, your body can still produce sugar inside of your blood.
Why do crashes happen after meals, stress, or poor sleep?
It's such a thing to see when this condition is so important for people to eat properly. And I want you to think of this: at any given time where you've had maybe a few donuts and had a really high amount of sugar in a short span, well, that can damage your pancreas. And if you don't repair it properly, it'll just stay potentially damaged. So these types of stressors that we have in our bodies can directly relate to cell damage that sometimes never recovers.
Many patients are told, your numbers look better, but why doesn't the body feel better?
It's sometimes when you've had high blood sugar for many years, it damages. There's not only just damage in the pancreas cells, it could be damage in other cells throughout the body that don't recover. So even when your blood sugar is normal, there's other cells that have been damaged throughout your body that are still crying out for help that need.
What early warning signs does the body give before the spiral that often get ignored?
Well, obviously the excessive thirst is a big deal. Excessive urination is a big deal. Those things people get, the fruity smell to the breath that people get with this particular condition. But it could just be tired, right? Something doesn't feel right. Worst case I ever saw, this guy came to see us, and before he came to see us, I can't remember, I think he was in his 40s, and he was just working at his camp, and he didn't feel good. So he went to the ER, and they checked his blood sugar. It was 840. And they started chewing him out and saying, why aren't you taking your diabetic medication? He's like, I'm not a diabetic. I didn't even know I had diabetes, whatever. So they put him on 200 units of insulin a day. And his blood sugar went down to like in the 170s, right? So then he comes to see us. And just for reference, with that 840 blood sugar, that's like syrup flowing around instead of blood, right? In your body. So, but they had him on 200 units of insulin a day. His blood sugar went down to like 170, so still not normal, but it should be between 80 and 120. And so he came to see us, and we started working on the wiring to his pancreas. I told him, I said, look, what we're gonna do here is we're gonna get things connected, and if your body starts working like it should, there's potential that your pancreas can turn back on and start producing more healthier insulin. And so, what that'll do is if you're taking a bunch of insulin and your body starts producing it, it can drop your blood sugar really, really low. So we got to be careful. So, and I had to make it clear, I can't tell somebody to take medications or not to. That's not our position. But when we see cases like this, we got to be sure, because low blood sugar will kill you. You got to be careful. So sure enough, he gets a few weeks into his treatment plan, and all of a sudden leaves one day and his blood sugar goes down to 50. So he calls us, he's like, oh my goodness. I said, well, go back to your medical doctor, see if you can, get some of that lowered. And sure enough, he did, and he kept through his treatment plan, literally got him off of all the insulin, and his blood sugar returned to normal. And so it's possible. Now this case we caught pretty early. We still to this day don't know how long he had high blood sugar. It may have been years to lead up to 840. We don't know, but the body is fully capable when you do the right things.
Yes. When someone with diabetes walks into your clinic, what do you notice right away that the lab results won't show them?
And kind of exactly what I talked about. So when somebody comes in, we look at their full history. We want to know all the emotional, physical, and environmental stresses that they've been throughout the course of their life. We get to know them as a person. And then we do a very detailed neurological exam. So it's like having somebody get into your power company here and test all the main lines. So there's 88 main lines or nerves that come off that brain and spinal cord, starting up here and going all the way down. And literally we check power to every one of those areas. So, and then after that, we were able to tell the person what percentage out of 100 they are powered up. So that percentage typically is in the 30s. And in diabetics, a lot of times it's even worse, because their nerves are really, depending on how long they've had diabetes, depending on how it's managed, what they're doing to help, if they're just relying on just conventional, if they're not exercising, they're not eating properly, and they're just relying on the meds, those are the worst ones, where they got a lot of nerves that are damaged, and they're headed for neuropathy and chopping off legs in the future. So, which we don't want.
Not at all. Why does the body stay stressed even when glucose appears controlled?
So remember, our body is always under stress, always, like it or not. We've got so much in today's world. It's not. I tell people incrementally, it's getting harder to live on this planet every single minute. The amount of environmental stresses, chemicals, pollutants, toxins, additives, preservatives, stuff you can't see, the 5G Wi-Fi going on 10G Wi-Fi. There's so much that these cells have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And then that's just the environment, but you combine that with emotions, everything you experience, right? Whether it's a death of somebody close to you, whether it's somebody pulling out in front of you and the car upsetting you, whether it's having a success or a failure, all the myriad of emotions can damage cells. And then you also have the physical stresses, right? So you could bend over wrong, you can have a fall, you can have an accident, and there's all kinds of physical stresses that our body endures on a day-to-day basis. So all of those stresses combine to potentially damage. In this condition, it would be like the pancreas. There's another nerve I didn't talk about. It's called the vagus nerve. And the vagus starts back here and it goes to your tongue and it makes you talk. And you want to think of it as all the nerves in the body. The vagus is the most important. It's like the king. So your vagus not only goes to your tongue and makes you talk, but it also goes through each side of your neck and it spider webs into all your organs, including your pancreas. And so that particular nerve can be damaged to the pancreas and cause all kinds of issues as well.
What starts to change when the nervous system finally feels safe again?
Well, in this particular condition, I'm just going to go back to that person I talked about earlier. His body started regulating sugar. He just felt better. He looked better. He wasn't into all the ups and downs that he was having before when he was at that camp. And it just, what he said, I was working. He was a hard-working guy. And he said he couldn't even function. And so when you have high blood sugar, your body doesn't feel right. And so those feelings go away. And the body is able to do its job, like it's designed, like God intended.
Yes. And we kind of touched on this earlier. Some forms of diabetes are autoimmune, others are not. How often does nervous system stress affect both?
It affects everything. Remember, stress is the culprit for all of it. And just to back up a little bit, remember we have trillions of cells. Nobody is born with a perfect set. And nobody has a perfect set of cells. We all have unhealthy cells in our bodies. We have healthy cells, but you have plenty of unhealthy cells. And so those cells, remember, they're all so sensitive to stress. And the stress that affects me, my cells, may not affect you. It may affect somebody else and may not affect somebody else, because different stresses can affect you. So the stresses are going to always be here. It's how your body deals with those stresses. What we do here is we not only find where the brain is disconnected and try to reconnect the brain and the power to those cells, but we also try to strengthen you to stresses. It may be sugar. We have ways of testing your nervous system for sugar. It may be some of the genetically modified sugars, which they're genetically modifying sugar nowadays. If you don't know what that means, it's like God-made or man-made. And so there's all these God-made foods, which for the most part is organic, and then there's man-made foods or genetically modified foods. And those are like altered, so they look like a God-made food, but they're not, and they cause all kind of problems in our bodies. And it could be a food that you ate with a bunch of these non-God-made parts that your body tried to process that originally may damage your pancreas.
In your experience, how often does long-term stress push blood sugar out of balance?
Yeah, so the longer you have any stress that's causing cells to be weak, it's like a kryptonite, right? So press pause.
1. In your experience, how often does long-term stress put blood sugar out of balance?
Yeah, so the longer you have any stress that's affecting cells and making them weak, the worse it can have all types of effects to the body that are bad, right? So that means I always talk about like stress in the body that's affecting you is like kryptonite for Superman. So the closer Superman gets to kryptonite, you can see the weaker he's getting. And that's what any type of stress can be for your body. So if there's something that's stressing you, and it doesn't have to be necessarily all emotional. When we say stress, people think emotional stress, but it could be something physical. It could be, right now I'm sitting up on this couch, and if I was like this, well then that might compromise some of my cells, right? There's all these physical stresses. And then right now, if I went and ate a bunch of really, really high sugar things that probably wouldn't be too good for me. Because I have a history of diabetes. My grandmother had it, my dad had it. My dad had a lifelong of side effects from diabetes, so I'm very familiar with what it leads to. In his case, it even led to his kidneys failing, pancreas failing, transplant, and then death. Yep.
Yeah. What happens when diabetes is treated only as a sugar problem instead of a whole body issue?
So if you just take insulin or a medication for this, and you don't address cells in the pancreas that are weak, that are not connected to the brain, where you're missing the root of why that started, and then even further trying to figure out what stress turned those cells off to make them so weak. Because the weaker those cells are, the weaker the power supply is to the pancreas, well, of course it's going to not do its job.
Yes. Why can tighter control still leave people feeling exhausted and unwell?
So I don't know if I like that question. I don't like that question.
Let's just skip over.
Yeah, skip over that question.
You work with frequency-based therapies in metabolic cases. What is the body responding to?
So frequencies, it is by far what people should be listening to. I want you to think of your body having trillions of cells, like the frequency or the tune, like a guitar string of the cells in your pancreas is totally different than the tune of the cells in your heart or your small intestine or your femur or your quadricep muscle. They all have a different tune. Well, each cell should be tuned up. Like a musician can go up to a guitar and go ahead and use the pick with the strings, and they can tell in seconds which one's tuned up or which one's not. And in minutes, they can go tune it up. I don't have any musical background, but I do in the body, and I can find what cells the frequency's off, and then get the frequency back. Nowadays, we have devices you can just wear in your pocket. They're so cool, where this particular condition, we could have a little device just like this, and we recommend these for home, where people can put this in their pocket and reset the cells for a healthy pancreas.
Wow. Why do people with diabetes often feel worse when the body is constantly pushed or micromanaged?
So there's so many, I want you to think of the blood sugar. It should be relatively stable, right? Even when you eat a sugary meal, your body should stabilize it. But when sugar's coming up and down and up and down and up and down, and the body's not internally regulating it, you can imagine that can cause all kinds of feelings that are not right in the body.
Yes. What happens when the body receives signals it doesn't need to fight anymore?
So the signals, the body is first off, and I didn't even touch on this yet, but it's designed to heal itself.
Yes.
So technically you shouldn't get this condition. You shouldn't, your pancreas should heal, right? The cells. But I want you to think of your pancreas, for instance. It's almost like a cut on your skin. If I have a cut here, if I cut healthy cells, well, they're going to heal with no scar. And we take it for granted. It's the most amazing thing you've ever seen in your life, where I can't even see what that cut was, right? But then you get another cut, and if you get a cut into some unhealthy cells, it may take longer to heal with a scar. And then even worse, if you get even more unhealthy cells than that, you cut it and then maybe they never heal. So that's essentially where this pancreas is. It's the same thing, right? It should be filled, this gland, with all these healthy cells. And if it was, you'd be regulating your blood sugar. But if it's not, then it causes other things in the body really degrade.
Why does regulation matter more than perfection?
So the body is designed, like we said, to heal itself, and it should be self-regulating, and it should be doing all the things it's designed to do without even you thinking about it. And these are like automated things. If you think about it, when you eat something and your body has to start processing whatever it is, well, it used to be that we ate God-made foods, not that long ago. Well, we have all the software internally to actually, your body wants to liquefy whatever you're taking in through the stomach, right? Then you absorb it in the small intestine, and you get out whatever the body thinks is waste in the large intestine, and you get it out. You got to figure nowadays there's so much confusion, because some of these foods, you eat them, they look like a God-made piece of corn, or corn seed, but they're not. They're actually a genetically modified corn seed. So the way your body processes this one is completely different than the way your body processes the God-made version. And then when you get the God-made version again, sometimes your body's confused, like, whoa, wait, what is that? Is that the man-made version? Is it the God-made version? And that's where a lot of these conditions have started. If you think about it, I mean, not 50 years ago, we didn't have near the incidence of diabetes. And there's other cofactors, right? Of course, there's lack of exercise. There's people on cell phones all day and not doing any mobility whatsoever. There's other factors with it as well. So it's not just the food, but it's a significant part of the problem.
We've seen public figures, including Nick Jonas, a singer and actor, speak openly about living with diabetes. Why doesn't success, money, or access make blood sugar easy to control?
So what they don't know. And I think what I'm presenting today, most people probably have never heard of what we're talking about, but I'm talking about science. And remember, if I went and let's just say, if I went on a big pharma does, I think about $8 billion in advertising in the United States a year. It may be more than that nowadays, but it's a lot of money they spend in advertising, right? So let's just say I had $8 billion to spend in advertising, and I went and I tried to say this message across the United States. Google would censor it all. So you wouldn't be able to see what I was talking about because they don't want you to know this information. They completely allow, and they want you to think diabetes is going to be something that's managed only by drugs, and that's going to be for the rest of your life.
What does that show about how misunderstood diabetes still is?
A lot. It shows that I don't fully ever understand certain conditions because they're being said but it is only managed by drugs. But it shouldn't be that way at all. You should have all the other options that are really successful, that really rely on amazing God-given body and just get it to self-heal again.
In your clinic, what are some of the more difficult or unstable diabetes cases you've seen, and what do they tend to have in common?
So the one I talked about earlier, the 840 one, we saw him, we still don't think it was relatively early. I don't know how long he had the 840, but we were able to reverse completely in his case, which was amazing, right? And then there's other cases, okay? There's some that come in that if the condition's so long, their body's been dependent on a medication for so long, we may never get them fully off of those medications, but we can keep them off a path of having neuropathy and having the legs chopped off eventually, because remember, insurance is going to cover all those things, but the actual get your body to self-heal again, that's what they don't understand. And from our perspective, that's what we're into. We just want to take those people and give them some solutions, right? We want to make them feel in deep about all the science of what we do and everything. We just want them to feel better. We want their quality of life to be better, because most diabetics, if they're just following what conventional is, their quality of life is dipping and dipping and dipping. And they get to a point where it's just to the point of no return. So from our sake, we want that quality of life. We want to do things with them, even if they have to keep taking their medication, because it won't stabilize. We're going to make them feel better by connecting the brain to the cells and making the body function at its highest level.
What do both public and clinical cases reveal about the limits of a numbers-only approach? So
when it comes to diabetes, the numbers are astronomical, and it's by the minute. In fact, whether it's, like I mentioned before, whether it's kids, and diabetes nowadays is exploding, but especially in adults. So we have to do something. That's why we're doing this, to educate people on what would be doing that you don't know about. I'm not lying to you when I tell you your L3 nerve back here goes to your pancreas. That is a scientific fact, and that's where the pancreas comes from. So if you've never had it checked, you never specifically had that nerve accurately checked, but yet you've had diabetes for many years, you need to have it checked. I mean, that's our perspective. We want you to know what you should know. And we want you to know your vagus nerve goes to your pancreas. I mean, there's a lot more complexities as to how we help people manage this condition, but I'm just trying to give people some basics. Those are just basic things that should be checked.
If someone has been told they have diabetes and this is lifelong, what assumption should they question first?
So I don't want people to think that any condition is lifelong. That's what I want people to always understand. Your body, I didn't design it to heal itself. This is a God-made thing, right? It's designed to heal itself of anything. So when it comes to conditions like this, and it comes to conditions in any other condition, if you do the right things to your body, if you use the right resources and methods and techniques, you can reverse things. But right, when it comes to diabetes, it's not like everything's gonna get better. It's gonna take a bit. So a lot of what we do here is not only do we offer what we feel are the best technologies and methods and techniques, we have devices and methods for home that we recommend, but we also teach our patients how to manage this particular condition properly and what they should be doing at home to help themselves, and it's things that they've never heard of.
What keeps you working on cases that others may label as controlled?
I never give up. And when it's this condition, it's hard. It's hard. You've had it, it's hard. So other people just kind of maybe give up on some of these patients or just let them sit with the meds and doing whatever they're doing. But we are on a nonstop, I'm constantly, and every person that comes through my door is different. And I consider it when it comes to us, because we're able to have a new set of nerves with a different set of stressors affecting those nerves. And oftentimes I'll learn something on one person and correct something. Like I talked to a patient earlier, I learned so much helping him that I helped 1,000 other people that were similar. And so that's kind of the way our practice runs. We're a learning environment. We're an institute because we're always learning and always trying to help. So in this condition, anything's possible if you do the right things.
What is the most damaging sentence someone with diabetes can hear early in their journey?
I think just hearing the word diabetes, if you're a doctor and they say that you have diabetes, it's lifelong and you're never going to get rid of it. It's never going away. And then you start probably thinking of, my kids are going to get it because I got it, because it's like this, it's like somebody tattoos it on your skin and you as a permanent label. It's like the scarlet letter, you just have it on your forehead, I have diabetes. That's the worst. I want people to understand this is completely manageable, but you got to do the right things.
Well, that is it for today on our talk about diabetes with Dr. Cormier. Thank you very much, Dr. Cormier.
Thank you so much. If you're somebody out there suffering with diabetes and this conversation resonated with you, you're starting to understand a new type of method that can help you. Well, we have several methods that can help you. We have body charters, which can help you at home, and we have a full online platform with all kinds of devices, methods, and techniques that can help you from home. But we also have our clinic if you want to get deeper with this condition, which I would recommend, especially if you've had diabetes for a while. I'd recommend you come to our clinic so that we can get to the deep-rooted causes and try to help you as much as possible at the Nerve Health Institute with whatever you need. Remember, this condition is very popular. A lot of people have it, so we can only take a limited number of people each month, but we look forward to helping you and serving you.